This is a disaster of a taping. I have recorded this about 5 times. The camera keeps turning off, and on top of that, when I opened the bag, because I thought it'd be funny to drop the box, I tore open the box. So, hello you dirty potters. How are you today? In today's video, we are doing yet another Clayscapes glaze. This time we are doing frosted mint from the Clayscapes company. This is a company that I have fallen in love with. We do have a discount code with them. I don't get anything from the discount code. I just want you to save a couple schmeckles when you buy some powdered glaze. The main difference with the Clayscapes company versus other companies is that a lot of their glazes do not come in bottled form. So their handmade glazes generally come in powdered form, so you have to mix them with water yourself. This ends up in them being massively less expensive than what would be a bottled glaze, because the majority of the time you're just paying for the bottle, realistically. Kind of like when you buy soda. Soda's super cheap to make, but the bottle and the making of the cups and whatnot is what you're really paying that dollar whatever for when you go out and get a soft drink. In that same spirit, Clayscapes just sends you a bag of chemicals that you mix with water yourself, and they do give you the amount of water you need to be mixing with every individual glaze, and you have a lot of glaze. This is a 5-pound bag of glaze, and I believe this costs well underneath $40 for 5 pounds. Also, my glaze chemistry brain is slowly trying to gateway you guys into like making your own glazes, and this is as close as you're gonna get without putting the glaze chemicals together yourself. You mix it with water, sieve it, and it's pretty much the same process. Today we are going to test it on a white clay body, a brown clay body, and we're also going to be testing it on a couple other things that I have back here. I hate these people so much. I don't understand why you rev your engine at stoplights. I live next to a stoplight. Why, like, you think people are just like, oh my god, oh, I'm so wet for you and your nice car. Like, no one cares. God, it's like failing a litmus test. In today's video, we're gonna test it on some white clay, we're gonna test it on some brown clay, and we're gonna test it on something that's a little more tasty with some texture, just so you could see how it works on a texturized surface. I'm also gonna do one more thing, because I'm pretty sure my kiln load at the moment is at capacity. I think that's all that we can do, because I have only enough space for those 4 items, and they are not small. With that being said, let's get to mixing. I actually had someone last week ask in the DMs of the Instagram what type of water I was using for my glazes, because they were like, my glazes are not coming out like yours with the same recipes. What are you using, man? Turns out he was using boiled rainwater because he heard some kind of rumor off of Facebook. I don't use that. I just use Sacramento tap water. If your water is city drinkable, it's probably fine. You can use it with Clayscapes glazes, and you're good. The glaze will come out most likely fine. Okay, I think we're pretty good with the glaze. We measured the water, and it turns out to be a pretty good consistency. So we're gonna start glazing our textiles now. Also, side point, look how much glaze it gave us. This is a 2-gallon bucket, and this is about little less than halfway full. This is a lot of glaze. It sure in the hell ain't 2 pints. Okay, I'm sorry for going so quickly. Usually I do a lot more explaining of the pieces, but we're losing daylight over here because it's turning into winter. So I have only about 30 minutes left, and I'm using a ring light behind me, and that is not beautiful natural light. So as we usually do, we're gonna go over what we're putting in the kiln, and then we're just gonna fire that bad boy up. This here is a carved porcelain teacup with frosted mint from Clayscapes over it. It is just that, it is a dipped porcelain teacup with a lot of texture. I'm pretty excited about this one specifically because it has so much texture. I really want to see our frosted mint reacts with that texture. This is essentially the same thing, except for this is a brown clay body or a redstone clay body. This is from the IMCO company. I think this will be a good test style because it really shows how the iron in the clay body will react with the glaze itself. I do have hopes that we are not going to get the same product here. Now this one over here is special to me because it has so much texture that will be affected especially by this glaze and gravity. And this is technically also a couple different clay bodies mixed together as well. I've been doing a lot of this recently. So this is this clay body underneath frosted mint from Clayscapes. I'm really excited about this one. Moreover, our only combination is Ron Roy's High Gloss Black over frosted mint from Clayscapes. This here is just a combination. Ron Roy's High Gloss Black being on the top side and the frosted mint being on the bottom. I think black and blue go really well together, and I'm hoping that the frosted mint will bring some type of greenish blue to the combination and make it melt a little bit. With that being said, let's put these in the kiln. Okay, now that everything's out of the kiln, let's take a look. Our first one is a very standard white clay body with the frosted mint from Clayscapes over it, and I am very pleased. Ooh, this is magical. I love this. You can also very clearly see that the layering very much matters with this glaze. So you can see here that I kind of grabbed it with the tongs, I dipped it, but the amount of seconds I did some of this in the water and got a little bit extra glaze right here really made a difference in comparison to the rest of the clay body. So here's where it got the most glaze, and here is where it got the least amount of glaze. So I imagine if I took some water out of the glaze recipe, or if I just dipped it a second time possibly, this is most likely the effect that I would get all over the body. My only complaint, and this is totally my fault, is that you can see that I did not do a good job carving, so it really picked up a lot of the texture that you see underneath the glaze matrix. But like for right here, where there's no texture because I carved good for that one little section, it came out fine. But over here, where I messed up on my carving, you can really see what's going on underneath the clay body. I don't even know if I would call that a criticism. I think that's just me hoping that the glaze would cover up my mistakes, and it didn't. You know those potters who are like, oh, it's okay if it has a crack in it, maybe the glaze will cover it up. No. Our second test style here for frosted mint is a brown clay body. This glaze on a brown clay body is gorgeous. I do love the white clay body test style. I really do, and they look similar in color, but this has a type of tastiness to it that kind of looks like it came from a really old Japanese town that like I stumbled across in a forest that was abandoned and someone just kind of like left their teacup there. This is gorgeous. When you look at it up close, you can really see that it takes to a little bit of the texture here, right? And it almost has a, not a Shino type effect, but a Shino type feel to it. It feels like an old glaze. It feels like something that was used every single day by someone who just wanted a simple teacup, but it kind of has that old beauty to it as well. I like this. I like this a lot, especially on the brown clay body. I'm gonna have a very hard time letting this go and giving it to one of my patrons. A very hard time. I see at least 3 different shades of green right now. I love this. Can you imagine how the next pot feels that I have to review? He's like, oh man, you talked up that pot so much. Now I have to compete with that? Oh man. Now let's take a look at our combo glaze, which is Ron Roy's High Gloss Black on top of Clayscapes Frosted Mint. I will fully admit that I just spoiled myself. I do love the semi-matte qualities of this glaze and the fact that it looks like it came from a really old town that was abandoned or something like that. But then I put a high gloss glaze on top of it and I kind of ruined the aesthetic. It looks too shiny for me now, right? But I will say that I noticed a very obvious reaction with some of the red iron oxide, because red iron oxide as a chemical of itself has a bunch of different things in it, or it can come out as a bunch of different things. It can come out as like greens, it can produce blacks, it can produce reds, and because of that, sometimes when you put it on another glaze, you can very clearly see this different brand of green underneath the surface as opposed to the green that we put on in the first place. And I imagine this is produced by the red iron oxide that can turn many, many different colors. That being said, I wish I didn't do this. This is a good combo. I will admit, I like it. It's nice and drippy. And there's definitely the Etsy drippy people out there who just love drippy glazes. Now this one over here is one that I did without you. It really personifies everything that I've been saying about this glaze, but in bottled form. This is a recycled clay body with Clayscapes frosted mint over it. And boy, am I happy with it. I am very excited to show this to you. This is a mixed clay body. It's recycled clay, so it looks tan as opposed to our brown clay body that looks pretty much straight brown versus our white clay body, right? This is an amalgamation in between the two here, which I often do whenever I recycle my clay. But this is a perfect combination of what I was talking about, where it looks kind of old and rustic and runic, but also looks very stable at the same time. Oh, I almost forgot to show you this one over here. This one is the one that is on a really strange clay body, but it has the most texture. Now this one looks all fine and good, but the trick here is that this clay body is technically a black clay body. The entire clay body is not composed from porcelain or anything like that whatsoever. This is an actual black clay body that I've kind of done myself. It technically is from porcelain, but it has an extra stuff in it to make it black. But that's the crazy thing to me, is that I made this a completely black clay body, and it pretty much turned out exactly the same as this here, right? And it also turned out the same as this, and not so much the brown clay textile looks a bit different to me, but even if I put this from a white to a black clay body, it essentially looks exactly the same, and I love the consistency on this. Unfortunately, I didn't put enough glaze on this to really see if it could have any shiny effect, like that semi-matte effect that I liked on these two other products here. It's also quite large. I don't know why I made one this big, realistically. This unnecessarily large cup right here. Another! All in all, I'm fairly impressed with this glaze. I personally think with the advent of me seeing like this on a red clay body and this being so beautiful, I don't know if it's just this piece in general, but I really think this glaze goes very well with a darker clay body, and I'm going to keep using it on all my darker teacups. Like half the Avatar stuff that I make from now on, which I often make to sell at conventions and whatnot, I'm probably going to be using this glaze for a lot of the earthbender things because it's so beautiful. Even that being said, I'm pretty sure I can take a lot of water out and make it a bit glossier, or I can leave the water in and make it this kind of nice, beautiful semi-matte right here. But thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today, and thank you, Clayscapes, for sponsoring this video. By the way, we do have a code with Clayscapes if you want to buy any of their glazes. I will put that down below, and I will also put it on screen for you right here. Because I know, you know, I'm lazy too, so I don't want to go down there and look. Some of you don't even know the description exists. You just think it's video comments. But if you click the little arrow right here, a bunch of info pops up, and it's useful. It's useful.
Thank you for your patronage.
I'm so sorry I'm rushing all of you so quickly. I am losing daylight and I just got off of work. Click like button for winter.